Hey everybody, it's Mike over here in Growtopia. On today's video, we actually have a nice epic harvest of tomatoes, probably the biggest that we've ever done. And I want to show you guys what's growing on in the garden and also what's to come with Growtopia. So let's head out there. So currently what we got going on over here in Growtopia is if you look around and you see all the different tomato plants, you can kind of start seeing, if you want to scan, if you start looking at the tomato plants, one of the things that you're actually going to start seeing is the tomato plants are basically going into what they call blight, which means that they're slowly dying off, which is right for the time of season, the season that it is right now. But don't freak out and think that you got to cut your tomato plants back or trim them. Let them just go to blight, let the leaves die, and just let it do its thing. It will still constantly keep growing and producing the tomatoes that are still on there. The possibilities of still having tomatoes coming from a flower might be very low, but just keep an eye on it. If you do have a plant that is completely dead all the way down to the ground, and the tomatoes look like they're still green, I'd say leave them on there is what I'm doing. If they're red, or they're almost red, or they're a little yellowish, or even a little orange, cut them off, bring them inside, put them on a pan, don't wash them, leave the stems on top and let them ripen the rest of the way. So the first section that we're going through over here, as we get down into here, we actually got, I'm going to show you guys, look at this one. Look at the size of this jalapeno. Now, this jalapeno has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and from what I've heard from other people is that this jalapeno is actually supposed to turn red. And when they turn red, they're not as hot as a regular green jalapeno that you would buy from the store. The reason why is because it's not fully mature. Apparently, once a jalapeno gets fully mature, it turns as red as a tomato, and it's actually not as hot. So I'm very curious about that, if that's the same thing. Now, I've heard that's also different varieties of jalapenos. So I'm kind of waiting. And if you've actually seen jalapenos in the store that have, they're like little white lines and streaks in them, that's usually when I've actually bought them and they tasted the best. So I'm kind of just letting this guy do its thing, and I'm just watching it. I'm not picking it yet. It's still firm. It's still nice and firm. I would say if it starts to like shrivel up, that's kind of when I want to really start looking into, possibly my next step with this. So let's transition into here. So we got 2 tomatoes over here, we got 3 down here, and as you can see, the plant is kind of looking a little dull. But I don't want to cut the plant where the tomato is. What I'm going to do is I just cut where the top of the stems are. Grab that guy when I get to it. We got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's still actually some more tomatoes that are on there that are still green. And as you look down here, you can even see there's more tomatoes that are here that are green, and there's more tomatoes that are green here, but that stem is all still alive as well. While I'm on my knees, I want to even look into what else I got going here. So I have a jalapeno. I have a cucumber here that has the streaking on it, but it still has the spines on it, the little thorns. So I'm not going to touch it yet. I'm not going to cut it off yet. Okay, excuse me, Mr. Cucumber. So this guy, I'm just going to grab him. I'm grabbing him for a couple reasons. One is because it's just about getting there, and I would say by the coloration of this guy, it might not be just a regular red tomato. It has more of an orangish whiteness to it, and it's firm, but it's got a little bit of softness to it. Usually what that means is that this is its color. So there's a good possibility this tomato could have been a orange heirloom tomato. What kind it is exactly, I would have to go into the book. It looked very similar to a pineapple tomato, because pineapple tomatoes are about this color. And it's more of an very, very nice orange looking tomato. The rest of the tomatoes that I have down there are just, I'm going to let them run a little bit longer because the stems are still green on them. If you look over here, this is what I was talking about, how this one is completely dead. It's actually just broken, so I can actually cut it right where it is. So like this is dead. This is obviously a dead branch. You could tell because even in here it's kind of like paper. It should be sappy. So I'm just going to cut these guys off. And that's what we got from there. Okay. We got some more jalapenos in here. We got some beans back here we can grab as well. Oh. The mosquitoes got me already. Some green beans. And it's nice too, if you look at them into the sun, you could actually see the beans inside the pod. Are you able to pick that up on camera? You see that or no?
I can't because it's in my eyes. But.
Oh, looking through the camera, could you see that? Let's see where the sun is. There we go. I'm trying to get it right in the sun. There you guys. So you can actually see the green beans inside. All right. Let's see what else we got in here. This is, I think, a yellow pepper. That's what that guy is.
A weird shaped cucumber back there.
Yeah, that's a good example of this one here. So let's actually step back a bit and take a look at this guy. Just look in here. So this guy, if we're looking at this one here, I'm going to snip it now. It's a little bit of an oddball shape. I'm going to scan it.
Yeah.
It's a little oddball. It's still got the little spines on it, but it has got that yellowish tinge to it, so it's fine to take it off. And if you're having issues with trying to figure out how to hold these with the spines on them, my best bet to tell you is just basically like the birds on a phone line, just don't step on the things that hurt. So just kind of put your hands on it carefully, just so you can hold it.
There's
and
another
then you can
one.
go inside and you can actually clean it off with just a paper towel.
There's another one back there.
Where?
Weird shape, straight back.
Oh, right down there on the bottom?
Yeah.
Yep, see it? Good eye. And just like the tomatoes, if you guys notice that I don't cut the tip off at the seal, I leave that on completely the whole time until I'm done. And if you guys actually see on here, you can see how it's a little wet on top. See the little sap ball? Oh, perfect. Camera focused right on it at the right time. That's because I cut it off. Hi, Mr. Bumblebee. Good morning to you too. And that means that that plant was still alive when I cut it. So that's always a good sign as well. You'll see that more on cucumbers.
That pepper's a good size.
Versus you'll see it on
Holy
tomatoes.
mackerel. Look at that pepper.
It's all right.
Big ass cucumber too. Wow.
Where you see the cucumber?
Next,
oh, that one?
Yeah.
That one I'm going to let it go for a little bit longer until it gets a little yellow. Actually, I can even cut it now. That's fine. Drop that down. Same thing as I said before. Actually, this is good too because it's got the right coloration in it. Is another time to grab it. But you see how big the thorns are? Basically, if you're worried about and trying to figure out how to get them off, you could just basically slide your finger on it. It's not going to hurt you. Or you can even take a paper towel, fold it up, and just do it yourself. Make sure you do it over your garbage pail because stepping on these with your feet hurt a lot more than your hands. Trust me, I've already done it, and it's a real eye opener when you're in the middle of the night and you step on something that's sharp.
Peppers are doing good.
Oh yeah, we have more jalapenos throughout this whole area.
Is that a jalapeno? It doesn't look like one.
In here, yeah. So when they're getting like long and skinny, that's how you tell they're a jalapeno. When they kind of bulge out and they're fat. Like for this guy's example, I call him my squishy guy. For some reason, this pepper, if you look at it,
Right.
it has gone in a weird direction, which I kind of find really strange. I found it really strange because a pepper usually fills out, and I could see that this happening if the plant, bring it up, camera back to me, maybe. If the pepper was actually, step back a little bit.
No.
You don't be on top of me. if the pepper, right, was growing like this, I'll stab myself. If the pepper's growing like this and it got into a branch and it starts to kind of go around it, I could see like it would be deformed.
Right.
But it literally was just sitting there with nothing touching it, and it deformed itself.
And the one right next to it is fine.
Right. And the one literally right next to it that's just hanging free is fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab that if you want to show everybody. So we got this guy back here. Same thing as before. Just nice clean cut of the stem. Not a big pepper, but it's good for two. You can cut it, and pepper of this size goes a long way. You don't always need this monstrous pepper that you see in the supermarket. And if you actually really look at things, a lot of times the stuff that's in the supermarket, like a pepper that's really big, it's a mixture of a few things. It's one, it's what they use to grow it, and two, it's the breed of it or the variety of it. So don't always think that if it's a large pepper, it's been molested. All right, so we're gonna start here, and then if you want to just stay right there, and then I'm just gonna go through this. Okay, so what we got over here with the tomatoes, we have a couple different varieties of tomatoes that we're gonna start off with. I'm gonna just run down the line of them. This guy here is a yellow plum tomato. And as you can see, he's starting to get a little bit of the blight, but he's doing very good because it was a late plant. So if you look at some of the plants that are here, you'll see some of them are still green throughout. and then other ones are starting to not be so green throughout, and that's because they're a little bit older plant. So this one's still a young one, but it's starting to get it. But you can see this one's older than this one because this one has more of the blight going on. And a blight is a fancy word for slowly dying, just in case anybody wants to really dig into it. All right, so down here, this is where things get a little tricky, because there's a lot of tomatoes that are ripe on here, but I don't want to accidentally cut stuff, so you want to go in there very carefully. That's where these little shears come in nicely. You're cutting just on the tip, and you're going nice and slow. So look at that. I got 3 beautiful yellow plum tomatoes. This is how big they grow. This is a perfect color to grab them. These 2 on the right are nice and ripe. This one's just about to be there. As we head over to the next one over here, this is the black prim tomato. And the black prim is very similar to the Cherokee purple. The colors are almost spot on the same. The only difference is that the black prim is a little smaller, and the Cherokee purple is more of the size of like a beefsteak tomato. They're a little bit bigger. So here's one right here. As you can tell, it's got that same greenish and like pinkish reddish hue through it. And here's another one showing you the same thing. Alright, as we migrate down to the end, and as our tray gets more and more full, I'm going to migrate to the next plant. And I play Where Am I Going to Stick You? So, what we got growing on in here, excuse me, marigold, is we have our watermelon. Remember our watermelon? Look how much bigger it is now than it was the last time we looked at it. Not bad, not bad. Definitely next season I'm going to be planting the watermelons, the pumpkins, and the zucchinis and the squashes a lot earlier than I did, but that was because I was experimenting this year more than anything else, and I planted stuff a lot too late, which you can kind of tell by where stuff really hasn't hit the peak that it needs to hit to actually get into a good growing harvest. Now, here's an interesting one that I want you guys to see. This tomato over here is a monster of a tomato, and I'm following the stem all the way down. Aha! Found it. That's why. So this big monster tomato that I thought was a weird defect is actually a Amish paste tomato. Hence the reason why this thing is so massively stranger than the rest of it. Look at the size of this tomato. Hence why I said this thing is a monster of a tomato. And the cracking, like I've said before, is due to watering issues. And that's just something you're going to naturally come across with in your garden. But this is a monster of a frickin' tomato. Got some 2 nice ripe tomatoes back here. These are just regular tomatoes. They're very shiny. A lot of that has to do with the amount of calcium that I put in the soil, and also the variety themselves. These things have like a nice, like almost like a waxiness to them. But it's edible, don't worry. Here's another one. Okay. Now you guys can stay there. I'm going to jump to the other side and grab those 2 tomatoes off of that plant. There's another 2 beautiful tomatoes. Obstacle course. Alright, let's migrate down to the next section. Look at the harvest we got so far. Multiple beautiful colors of different varieties of tomatoes. People, you should be going out there and growing this. This is 2 people that are doing this using an old pool that was decommissioned from the previous owners. And this was, if you scan around and look at everything, this used to be a pool that originally caved in and the previous owners had filled it in with rocks and stones. I came in with my tiller and ran it through several times to get as much of the stone out of here, transported the stone to different parts of my property that needed some fill. Then went in there with multiple bags of soil, tilled it all in together, and that's it. Then put the beds in, backfilled it with more soil, cow manure, and homemade compost, and look at this. Growtopia has been born. Everybody can do this. There is no excuse. Yes, you may not be using an old decommissioned pool. You might have something even smaller. You might have a backyard that's as the size of this. If your backyard's the size of this area, go for it. If it's half the size, go for it. The only thing you're going to have to do is really think about placement of your plants. So you could see how all these tomatoes, as I've said before, I don't snip them when they're young. If there's 5 tomatoes growing out of one pod, when they're still young, you could just break the pod apart like I've said, and you can take out those individual tomatoes, stick them in a greenhouse and let them grow until they're about like this high, transplant them out here, and voila! Or you can keep them together like I did, get nailed by a leaf, and you can have all these plants growing together. Oh my God, this is just, whew, tomato man. I'm tomato man. All right.
Do you want me to get another tray?
Nah, we're gonna max that tray.
Here's another 2 beautiful tomatoes. Now we're in a big cluster here. So because of the way that the tomatoes are growing in here, I have to a lot of times attach them to others. That's why you see you got cherry tomatoes growing with tomatoes that are a little bit bigger. And everything coexists very beautifully together. Two more. Die. Now because these 3 are all ripe, I just cut them like that, keeping them together. That just worked out perfectly. That whole section was ready, so I didn't have to worry about it. God. Did I cut through here? I got more on the back side. There, here. Better than while I'm back here. While I'm back here, let's see what else is there. I went this way, right? Excuse me. Through. Another 2 beautiful tomatoes. Very beautiful. Octoliba. I'm trying to make sure I grab everything because the worst thing I want to do is go back and forth more than I already do. This one's just about almost ready, so I'm just going to grab it while I'm here. This one. Yeah. Sometimes these are just let them fall. Holy crapola. Alright. Another tomato up here. These guys can go for a few more days. Good thing I like tomatoes. Alright, we're going to move down. I'm going to leave that over there because that tray might fall apart if I go to grab it. So, we have another yellow plum tomato plant. And, well, just like the first one, this one actually is a little older. So that's why this one's actually producing so many yellow plum tomatoes, is because this one's older. So it's just at its peak right now. And it's just pumping these suckers out like there's no tomorrow. Look at the vibrancy of that color, of that tomato. Beautiful. Beautiful tomato. More in here. More back here. Another 2 beautiful tomatoes. Alright, so as we get to the last of them, and I walk into a spider web, hopefully I don't turn into Spider-Man. I got a couple more tomatoes in here. A massive acorn hits the greenhouse. Here's another one of those nice, very shiny. They have that waxy look to them. They almost look really fake, and they're nice and firm. And after a few more days, I can cut them and slice them, or I could just cut them and slice them now. Doesn't matter. Oh my God. Okay. Let's see. I think that's it. Everything else is a few more tomatoes here and there I can grab. But like I said before, you can see how it's got like the yellowing, the leaves, they're kind of falling off. But if you give them like a light tug, you notice that it's, even though it looks dead, it's basically still being held on there. So I would say don't worry about it. But there is one thing I want to show you before I wrap up the end of this video. And we're going to go inside. We're actually going to do our tomato count. You guys get to see how many tomatoes we got on this monster tomato harvest. The biggest harvest of tomatoes I've ever had. If you can come down here carefully. Alright, so you see this here. This is a spaghetti squash. You see it? Okay. So up here it's really firm, which is how it should be. But then down here it's soft and wrinkly. If you're trying to figure, if you're having this situation with your squash, basically there's two problems. One, I planted it way too late and it's going to take way too long. A spaghetti squash gets basically a almost as like a darkish yellow as almost as the leaf of the plant, of the flower of the plant. So why is it wrinkly and soft on the bottom? Well, once these things start producing, just like tomatoes, they have a massive demand that they need for calcium, and they also need for water. These are two water consuming fruits. Just like corn that needs a lot of water to grow, these are the same thing. So when it comes down to watering and you're not sure how much water you need, one of the biggest things you should do is make sure you have a nice inch or two of mulch and deeply water. Being my sprinkler system that I run, we've been running it for an hour and a half, and I've been trying to see if it's actually helping this guy, and it's actually not as soft as it was last week. So I'm a lot happier. So what causes the wrinkling and the softness on the bottom? Well, because of lack of watering for the plant. The plant wasn't receiving enough water, so what happens is it has to look for another source of water for it to keep surviving and reproducing offspring. So what's it do? It goes to one of its only fruit that it has on it and starts sucking the water back out of the fruit. Very amazing thing. It doesn't die itself off and just, let itself commit, committing suicide is a horrible terminology for it, but it doesn't kill itself. So what it does is it goes back to its fruit and it actually starts sucking the water out of it, which ends up getting the wrinkling and the softness on it. So you know that basically what it's doing right now is sucking the water from the furthest part of the fruit so that it could survive and keep going and hopefully produce some offspring. I choked on some air. As you can see, it has some more flowers that are trying to get going. That's on it. And those flowers will then eventually pop open. Jesus. And then once the flower gets pollinated and it gets what it needs, then it will close up on itself and then produces this amazing fruit. And the longer you let them stay on there, the better they're going to be because they're a gourd, right? So once they hit their yellowish, and it's not as yellow as me, it's more of like an orange than a yellow. It's very in between, but you'll know the difference in color. The longer it stays on the plant, actually, the better before you harvest it. So I'm gonna leave this on here until probably like December, or unless something changes. And it's only like the this week into October, so it's the 4th. So today's October 4th, and I'm itchy as hell because the mosquitoes have yet to get the hint that it's time to leave. They gotta start flying north. They gotta start flying south with the birds. Head somewhere else, please. So get out of here, Ant. You're not paid for this video. So I'm gonna let this sit on here basically all the way into December, and then. But like I said, if something else changes, I'll bring up a video and be like, hey, I'm bringing it in, scratch that idea, it's, the plant died and yada yada yada. But it's still going strong. A couple dead leaves on it here and there, but as soon as the leaves kind of start dying off, then all of a sudden new leaves, as you see down here, has sprung back up. So it's not dead. It's just slowly going along. Alright, so we are going to now grab our tray of tomatoes. Okay. Baby. And I'm going to try to find an exit strategy here. We're going to migrate into the house and we're going to do a tomato count. If you want to go first, I'll shut the gate behind you. Okay. that down there. I'm not worried about that. I'll grab the door for you.
Thank you.
Why did something bite me in the ass?
They always go for
Like,
the ass.
seriously, man.
They always do.
Why? Why me? Alright, now we're back inside the house. We're going to do our tomato count. Turn on my ice maker. That I'm going to shoot a video of so you guys can actually figure out if you want one or not. So let's start off with what I like to call the they're like a smooth, basically tomato. They have like a smooth waxiness to them. I keep saying it's a waxiness because that's basically how they feel. But I'm only going to really kind of go through the ones that are actually what they are. So these are just tomato. I call them tomato because we bought these from Whole Foods and we sliced them and we put them into the ground, which is where most of those tomato plants are from. And I didn't really keep track of it. When I went back on Whole Foods to see what it was for the tomato, it said tomato on a bottle. So, tomato. So we got 1, 2, 3 of those. This is the mysterious orangish tomato. One there. This is the Amish paste tomato. This is very monstrous of a tomato. It's kind of funny, this almost does kind of look like a jalapeno even though it's a pepper. We got our cherries. Cherry. Got our yellow plum tomatoes. Stay. Possible or pineapple tomato. Now that I'm inside the house looking at this, this is definitely a pineapple tomato. The way to tell what it is, and it's going to be a little hard to see it on video, but it looks like a pumpkin. It's got very similar coloration, and if you look at like a regular tomato, it's very smooth edges on it. It's got like a very nice smooth round edge to it. This is very hexagonal, if you guys can almost see that. It's got a very hexagonal shape to it, so that is definitely a pineapple tomato. Why did they not call it a pumpkin tomato? Beats the shit out of me. Alright, so this is a black creme. We're going to stick that there. You could actually start seeing the nice coloration difference between them. We have a half-eaten tomato. These ones are all tomatoes. Tomato. They're not ripe. They're actually here. Attacked by a bean. These are the non-ripe ones. These ones are actually part of that batch. And you are part of this batch here. Now, I don't know if you guys caught that at all, but do you notice how this tomato looks different? But it's very similar to this tomato. It's an Amish paste. So basically, as the Amish paste is starting off, it starts off like this before it turns into that. So what is our final count of tomatoes? So of the regular tomatoes, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 of the regular tomatoes. 20, 21 of the Amish paste. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 in total of the cherries. 33. 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 45 with the yellow plums, 46 with the pineapple, 47 and 48 tomatoes from one harvest, and there is still more to come. So how do I process to keep these from rotting away? Well, here's it simple. By the time you get it in the supermarket, it's already spent about 2 to 3 weeks before it even came to your table. This will keep for at least a good 2 weeks, and because I use tomatoes in everything we're doing. So if I have a nice piece of steak, I'll probably use 2 or 3 tomatoes on it just so that they don't go. And now these tomatoes will then go into there. We also, at the end of that harvest, we had a nice bell pepper. We had 2 nice green beans, and we had 3 nice cucumbers. Anyway, guys, this is something you should definitely get into, and what's great about all of this is that I can even take the seeds from these fruits, let them dry out, have them in a section where they're tagged, and put them back in the seed packet, and I will never, ever, ever have to buy seeds ever again. So you could buy a seed packet for $4 to $9, and that'll be the last time you buy that seed packet, as long as you collect the seeds from your tomatoes, which is very simple, because as you cut your tomatoes, as I do on my cutting board, the seeds fall out. I can take a paper towel, put them on top of the seeds, lift the paper towel up, because now they're stuck to it, and stick it somewhere and let it dry. Once it dries out, take the seeds, put them into a little baggie with the name of that plant, and voila. And that's actually even better than the tomato seeds that are in the packet, because the seeds are fresher. So, anyway, guys, that is it for today's video for the epic tomato harvest for October 4th of 2024, Zone 7A. Get out there and grow something. This is Mike over at Growtopia, and I hope everybody has a wonderful and beautiful day. Later.